What's your reaction to Australia banning people under the age of 16 from using social media?
I mean, I think in the sense of introducing something that has needed to be introduced for a while, doing something about the pervasive problem of social media, the impact on our mental health, particularly our young people, we should laud the Australian government for bringing it to the fore, making it a national priority and indeed a global priority. But let's not fool ourselves. Bans don't work. Kids are very smart. I've got 3 of them. And the instant you say no to them, that's their cue almost to work around this. And so this isn't something that's going to magically fix this. There are no magic bullets or panaceas, but certainly as an initial step in ensuring that our kids are as safe as they can be in the digital landscape, it's an important start.
Do you think Australia is serious about this? And if so, do they have any kind of plan at all?
I think they're very serious about it. Australia has always been somewhat progressive in terms of being the first in the world to introduce tech-forward legislation. Look no further than their online news legislation, which was ultimately copied by Canada. But even the agency that is charged with enforcing it recognizes that the technology to make this law happen on the ground simply doesn't exist just yet. It's going to be developed on the fly, and they can't answer questions about how this is going to come to life.
I guess one of the things that you try to do, and I just don't know, A, if the tech is there, and B, if a small country like Australia can wrestle the big tech giants to the ground on this, but presumably you say to the tech companies themselves, this is your job, your responsibility to figure out a way to, if not eliminate, then at least reduce the number of people under 16 on social media. Do you see any possibility of success there?
I think in terms of moving the tech companies toward more ethical and moral behaviors that recognize the damage their products cause and do more to protect those who use them, I think that's a positive. But I think to expect it to completely close the gap, absolutely not. This is a conversation that should have started 20 years ago. We're only starting it now. We've allowed the technology companies to race ahead, create businesses and business models that largely exploit those who use their technologies. And so we're kind of trying to play catch up here, and we will move the needle. It will move things in the right direction, but we're not going to solve this just with one simple law. No one country can pull that off.
You know, it's interesting how public debate goes. We hear all this criticism of social media, particularly for young people. Then when there's a ban, what we start hearing is what's good about social media for young people, including connecting disparate groups of vulnerable children, let's say those struggling with mental health. Are you worried about those groups being cut off from social media?
This keeps me up at night because for all the criticism of social media, it is a lifeline for so many who might not otherwise have access to critical resources, critical supports, and they get them through social media. This is their digital town square. If you cut them off, you essentially cut them off from the supports that in many cases are keeping them engaged and in some keeping them alive. So we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater here, and we need to recognize that technologies themselves aren't all good or all bad. There are many shades of gray, and you can't simply turn it off and expect to resolve that issue. You cause more problems than you solve.
Just 20 seconds left. Any lessons here for Canada?
Yeah, I think, certainly recognize that you're not going to solve it with one law, and you need to make sure that the resources on the ground to provide support to these kids, not just turning it off, is much more important than releasing a populist law that might score some points politically, but ultimately doesn't move the needle for our kids.
Carmi Levy, technology analyst and parent. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian.